Welcome to American Lunchbox Podcast!
Well. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Cheers. We're coming to you live, ladies and gentlemen, from Venice, California. Out of the ashes. If you have not seen, go to our Facebook page and check out the pictures that Chris took yesterday of the massive fire that took place here down at the beach. Wow, it was crazy, but we made it through. There's some construction going on out there. Things are happening. But Chris, you were in the thick of it yesterday. Tell us about it just a tad bit while folks are getting themselves
together. It seemed like it started real early in the morning, 6:30 in the morning or so. Ton of firefighters. That hung around afterwards. Like I went back 12 hours later and there were still firefighters. I don't know, Joy, I know you were a firefighter. Do you know why they would still be there?
Yeah, it's investigation.
Oh.
A lot of the stuff is cleanup. Some of the stuff is city to sometimes even to protect.
Okay.
To make sure that the scene doesn't get tampered with because it's so public.
Right.
So you'll find that some of the companies will stick around, and definitely captains and things like that.
Yeah, basically, for those who don't know, the homeless situation here has gotten worse and worse. There's one block where it almost looks like there should be another lot, like another building there, but it was never built, so then it just became like a street. And it has high sidewalks, so I guess it's, add a good shelter to, because if it rains, the rain will pull down into the... Anyway, this thing has gotten bigger and bigger. These things are, there's like 2 rows of tents on each side of this little mini block, and there's buildings right next to it. And from what I understand, the early reports say that something in the encampment caught on fire, and the building is pretty burned out.
Yeah.
So it's just a fascinating place. Like you have people here who are renters, standard rent, and then within 100 feet you got illegal hostels in some apartments, and then
are you talking about those Airbnb illegal hostels?
It's a story for another day. And then also you have people living in the street, and then also you have like an $8 million house that was just built. So I mean,
all within 100 feet of each other.
Different wealth levels or of I don't know, inequality or just levels of human experience within 100 feet here are crazy.
That's incredible.
The tent from the local sports shop that caught on fire now burnt up one of these houses that the real estate is now probably millions of dollars.
That's right. Well, here's the thing. People don't understand that, the homeless situation is a topic that we've discussed in the past on many of our podcasts. Chris has given us some insight because he's right in the thick of it here. But what people don't quite understand is when it starts to get cold, the homeless community take to keeping warm, and of course fires and things like that are very typical in the wintertime in the homeless communities because they're doing their best to stay warm. Now, it's a tragic situation, but the reality is that when you're dealing with property, not life but property, it puts people in a very precarious situation. Do you protect property? What do you do with the homeless situation, which we've talked about, that is now completely politicized in Los Angeles?
Yeah. I mean, some people spend their life building their property. Other people spend their life smoking crack outside of someone's property. So
yeah, it's
in this regard, like life and property are sometimes tied together.
Yeah.
I get the greed argument. I get, these guys, they don't. That's the problem, though. If someone doesn't, quote unquote, believe in property, they don't believe in your property.
That's right. They don't have any respect for your shit. So at the end of the day, what do you do for your property? How do you protect your property? And you can't put fences around it because obviously you want to be able to go in and out of your own property freely.
The fascinating thing is lately, the new development I've seen here with the homeless encampments, they've gotten so big, they become like villages. And I've seen a lot more cases where there'll be a tent with a front yard, like a fence around the tent.
A fence? Literally around?
Yeah, I've seen patios and like literally structures that are fences.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna stop this right now because that is a podcast in itself. You're gonna tell me that there are people out here in Los Angeles that you've seen have front yards.
Yeah.
Take some pictures for us. Let's post that online.
Yeah, we'll do.
We're gonna do that. But ladies and gentlemen, as we move further into 2021. By the way, it's only been to date 14 days. We've only been in 2021 for 14 days, ladies and gentlemen. 14 days. And in 14 days, we've probably seen more history politically, socially, than probably in some of the years in total. So as everyone is crying to get out of 2020, it seems like some of us are bringing 2020 right along into 2021.
Yeah.
Now, if you are a person who enjoys your social media, which most of you do, if you are a person that enjoys a traditional, archaic way of reading the newspaper or getting your news, then you would appreciate getting the truth. And that takes us, my friends, to what we're going to talk about very briefly here, is censorship. Now, I know what you're thinking. I got it. Hold on. Before you start jumping out at the camera, before Chris starts getting on my shit about what I'm going to talk about, I know. It's wrong. But still, we have to be careful about who we point fingers at, because eventually it's going to come back to us. Now, do I agree with what happened with Trump? Do I think it's right what happened with him in regards to being censored, the president of the United States?
Kicked off Twitter, indefinitely kicked off Facebook. It's currently still the president.
I'm confused. I'm confused by it all. I'm confused by big tech. I'm confused by the president. Chris, please help me out here. Help me out. I'm confused at everybody's. I'm just confused about how people are handling all of this.
Yeah, it's very knee-jerky, and the problem is, for the liberal people out there, once the conservatives are gone from the space, you become the conservative. So if you don't think the shark's going to eat you by feeding it, it will. Over the weekend, or actually I would think it was about 2 days ago, Ron Paul, libertarian, anti-Trump, and libertarian, momentarily kicked off. He's back on for now. So it seemed like it wasn't just Trump, but Trump was used as a way to purge lots of people. Some of the people you might disagree with, but sometimes it's healthy to have other opinions and a spectrum of opinions. If not,
but let's take responsibility, because I can't sit here and pretend like if I had my hands on the switch that I wouldn't have done the same thing. We have seen riots. We have seen organizations who claim to be Trump organizations. We've seen military or militias. I mean, these are all signs of a revolution. And if there's going to be a revolution, the question is will it be televised?
So far, it has been. We last week looked at the footage and we were laughing because it looked comical, but the live footage does look comical. But since what has come out last week, it's a lot more serious than what we saw on TV.
It's a lot more serious. A lot more serious. How does a person, an organization, individuals bring 3 huge pegs, prop them up in front of the White House, and then put a noose?
George was nervous till he realized
I was fucking nervous.
Mike Pence. I
was nervous. But then I realized that the same people who created these noose and this were now using that same symbol, the noose, for their own. I told you guys back in...
Sort of deracialized the noose, didn't it?
Damn right. I know about lynching. I got it. We got history with that.
Right.
But the reality is that when you're thinking about the symbol, you think about where they are. Remember, the very first March on Washington was about civil rights. Wow, have we come a long way. We've come a long way from 1964.
We don't even have civil rights anymore.
We don't even have civil rights anymore. At least conservative civil rights. Hashtag, where are my civil white friends? So I'm here right now just bamboozled by this whole situation. I know that Twitter has a moral responsibility, a social responsibility.
I mean, sometimes they do. Oftentimes
Exactly.
they don't.
And that's
It's not equal application of anything.
And inside the community of
I mean,
social media.
if the Trump people put a BLM sticker on themselves, they could be getting funded by Twitter.
True. Facts. So where do we go from here? We know that the censorship issue was brought up by Trump in his speech yesterday. Okay, let's talk very briefly about
best behavior.
Let's talk very briefly about this speech. Because believe it or not, it was a brief speech. It's not much really to talk about. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say it here. I liked the speech. I thought the speech was extremely presidential. It didn't matter who was reading it.
Yeah.
I thought the speech was very appropriate.
Yeah. With all the people who jumped ship around this impeachment situation, he has at least one writer working for him still.
One writer. And he read it verbatim. Did you like the speech, Chris?
I mean, it was appropriate for the situation, but it's just kind of schizophrenic. Like, some of those written speeches and then some of those non-written speeches are very different and happen. One day is this one day is this one. So
now, to the American people, I ask you, is it a little too late for President Trump to be coming out acting presidential after basically spending 4 years being the biggest dick president that we've seen?
Yeah. I mean, the thing he's going to say, they're really giving him a rallying cry, though. This is the problem, is everything that's happened in the last week is played exactly into the narrative that he had. I mean, Trump is going to come out and say, hey, I might be an a-hole, but I never censored you. I might be an a-hole, but I never pulled the fast one on the middle of the night, never took away anyone's due process. We're talking about people who are getting more and more comfortable with authoritarianism because it benefits them in the moment. But I mean, that could so quickly turn against you.
And it will.
It will.
It will. It's not if, it's when.
Can I say something about the big tech people?
The big tech people, absolutely. Silicon Valley, hit their asses. What you got to say about them?
Okay, this is just a theory. The BLM riots over the summer and the Antifa and all that stuff remind them of the people they had in their like maybe in their high school club. Like they know those people.
Hold on. Are you telling me that are you using the big tech heads and you're taking us back to their high school years?
I'm saying the people in the Trump riot might have reminded them of the people who beat them up in high school. Maybe that's why they're more offended with this group than the BLM crowd. This is like their way to say.
Are you telling me that these CEOs are bullies?
It's revenge of the nerd. I think it's revenge of the nerds going on here.
It's revenge of the nerds. They're looking back and saying, "I gotcha." Yeah. I remember when I was a kid. And, come on, man. I mean, they're smart, but I don't think they're that smart.
Well, they're proving to be just as much cowards as they probably were before because this is not a total. This is a censoring. This is like a middle of the night, take you off for no reason thing. I mean,
but if
you want to show how tough you are, I mean, it doesn't show that you're tough. It just shows that you're willing to use power to do what you want, but it doesn't necessarily make you a tough person to censor people and limit free speech. I mean, when you have the Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, saying you guys have a potential free speech issue, we're in a weird place here.
We are in a weird place.
And I'll tell you one more conspiracy
theory.
I think those people want the Trump people to run up on the inauguration with guns because they want to ban guns the same as they want to ban free speech. So don't do it, Trump people. Don't be stupid. Well, don't be stupider.
Well, I don't think for a second that they're not capable of doing it. Matter of fact, they've shown me already what they're capable of doing.
They're 1 for 1.
These conservative
because you said riots, but it hasn't been riots. It's been riot.
No, I'm using it to say, when I say riots, I'm talking about all of the people that were involved on that day. I'm saying it was
multiple acts of riots.
Multiple acts of riotism. And I don't even know if that's a word. Correct me if I'm wrong, people. Put it in the comments. Is riotisms a word? But when you think about...
You're saying they were displaying some riot power?
White power? Or right power, I don't know. But when you think about how these people, and I say these people, I'm talking particularly because I've said this before and I'm going to say it again on this show. There is a huge difference between a Republican and a Trump supporter. It's a huge difference. One is politics, and one is a person who's following the person and not the message.
Well, even the messaging was confusing. Like, I agree with you, but like, for instance, Ashley Babbitt from out here, San Diego, the girl who got killed.
Yeah, bless her heart. God rest her dead.
Yeah, she, I saw some of her Facebook or online stuff, and she was doing these like ranty, angry sort of rants, wearing a MAGA hat and talking about the QAnon. But she also says she's libertarian. But I mean, those ideologies don't match up. Like, like we were saying yesterday, last week, there was people holding flags. It just seemed contradictory. Like the messaging seemed all over the place.
I think people were in their feelings. They were in their emotions. They were going with the plan. They were going with and this is what we call a riot or mob mentality. And when you're in it, you have to make a decision. And you have to decide whether I go back to the hotel or I go back to my car, or do I see this thing out and become a co-conspirator in this? And then with that, take on all the ramifications of a co-conspirator. And that's exactly what the majority of these people did. But I have another conspiracy theory as well on this. Last week we talked about one of the biggest differentiations between these events that has happened and events that's happened in the past, and one was age. One of the reporters noticed that there were a lot more older, or a lot of older people, or a lot more old people in the group of co-conspirators in dealing with this. And this is what I believe. I believe that for over 80 years, and I'm going way back, 80 almost to 100 years, there has been a sentiment in this country that has not been represented. And it's an old sentiment of what would be old America, the old United States. People who did not agree with what would be the course of America as it has taken its course.
Talking about the civil rights movement.
I'm talking about the civil rights movement. I'm talking about women's sovereignty. I'm talking about what would be all of those. I'm talking about the Chicano movement. I'm talking about gays and lesbians. I'm talking about all of these movements that we've seen in the last 80 years. And I'm telling you that there was a sentiment, a spirit, if you will, that was being suppressed, and it was dormant because there was no one that would speak out against this particular ideology.
Yeah.
And I'm talking generational. I'm talking about what would be now the grandfathers and fathers and sons of this generation, and it being talked about in these places with no representation. And I'm saying to you, the reason why you saw so many old people there is because they are the ones who have experienced these kinds of movements over the years and didn't agree with it. And they wanted to represent what would be the Patriot or Older Act, and Trump has represented that for them. That's the reason why we are seeing older people, because older people have been sitting back and watching the very first black president, Hillary Clinton, all of these other liberal type situations happen, and they've never agreed with it. They've gone along with it quietly because there was no space for them.
Right. I talked to some liberal people this week, and the sentiment seems to be that, they're actually, once Trump goes away, this all ends. And no.
No.
If you actually listen to what the people who are rioting are talking about, they're more upset at the unfairness of what they saw over the summer in some cases than the stuff with Trump. Yeah, they're pissed about the Trump thing, but if you think you're going to cut the head off the snake, or I've heard some terminology like that, it's just not going to happen.
No.
Like, he's just a vessel for the real things that are there. You can't pretend that 75 million people are in a cult. It's just not how cults work.
But again, now keep in mind,
cults are limited.
I got to correct you now. We're not talking about Republicans. We're talking about Trump supporters. 70 million people, 70 million Republicans as a whole,
right,
more than likely, and probably quite a few Democrats, probably quite a few independents.
Yeah.
I mean, but There's a difference between politicians or politics and ideologies that people follow.
Right.
And I'm saying Trump represents an ideology.
Yeah.
So you follow the person and not the message. The message is what we're talking about.
Yeah. It's just another reminder that as hard as you try, it just won't be able to sweep this situation under the rug. And the other thing is, it's not just like racial or animus that that some people have a problem with the civil rights movement. It's because for people who are like constitutional conservatives, it does represent like an overreach of the federal government to them. Like there are people who were not racist that didn't want to sign on to the civil rights movement because of the overreaching, overarching nature. They just figured, let the economy sort these racists out eventually. So there are people who had objections to certain policies that were leftist or left-wing over the years. But the problem is, every time you try to bring up one of those arguments, you just get branded racist. So the thing was just shut up. Just shut up and go along with it. And your objections will just be treated as if you are the worst actor ever. So when you do that, when you expel people from polite society, don't be surprised when they start acting impolite. I'm not justifying what those people did. I hate that, the visuals of that. The Confederate flag with the American flag, people flying those shit is equal. No.
Fuck that.
But also, some of these people have seen the American flag flying next to the flagpole of the gay flag. And it's like, what is that? Why is the American flag downgraded to meet with any other flag, other than there's these bubbling ideologies that are making runs for power over the course of time?
But again, now you got to be careful with that, Chris, because what you're saying here, we're talking about a Confederate flag that represented the losing side of a revolution. When we're talking about a flag, we already know that there could be three flagpoles on any capital city. There could be several flagpoles. That could be the United States at the top. It could be the state flagpole. It could be the city. I mean, flags are symbolic of whether it be
symbolic of what you swear allegiance to.
Right. Whether it be nationalism, it could be nationalism. It could be racial. It doesn't bother me to see that people are prideful in their culture. Now, when we institute the Confederate flag, right? Like, I don't have a problem with the gay and lesbian community. I don't have no problem with them saying I'm a gay American.
Yeah,
most people don't. I can see two flags very easily. But when I see the Confederate flag and the United States flag, that's a dissonance. See, that's when the brain doesn't understand that you can't have both.
Right, but to those people, they're seeing the gay flag as something that represents closer to the civil rights movement, which is overarching federal imposition on the states, which is in violation of the Constitution. Look at Joe Biden right now. He ran on gun control. That's a violation of the Constitution in the first place to these people.
Well, gun control is different from actually owning guns. What they're talking about is assault rifles. They're talking about guns that are used that are for purposes that are warlike. Right.
But you swear an oath. You don't swear an oath to the country. You swear an oath to the Constitution. And if the case is that people are swearing an oath to the Constitution while simultaneously running on things that would limit the rights of the people who fall under the Constitution, then here's where the conflict comes in.
And that's why we have civil rights. And that's the reason why, at the end of the day, that person who is saying that they see how federal government needs to have a opinion or set a law that will dictate its states. That's when you see that civil rights have been violated. That's the reason why the civil rights movement happened, because in the Constitution, it talks about justice, it talks about freedoms, but they were not in place. When you talk about things like abortion, when you talk about things like the rights for women to vote, when you talk about all of these things were not put in place because of the egotistical white men who, in the very beginning, what you will call your forefathers, actually put these things in place to benefit them only. And keep in mind, if you didn't own land back then, you didn't necessarily have a voice. So these laws were set up from an imperialistic idea that came from what would be Europe and to United States. And then as we get older, as we modify, as we become more conscious in our efforts, we see that we have to change these things.
Yeah. The problem is, like, these people down the block here in Venice were trying to live in teepees, and then it all went up in flames.
And not only that, they took down another building with them. And I guarantee you they won't be paying for it.
Okay, I was being funny, but I'm trying to be. But
trying. That wasn't funny, by the way. We got to work on that trying shit.
Right.
You know.
Well, here's the thing. Like, so here's the other problem, which is why I think those Trump people are very freaked out. I'm freaked out about it, honestly. Is that you have things like the ACLU, which used to say, we might condemn we might not like your speech, but we defend your right to say it. And that's no longer happening because we've seen institution after institution, just like these social media companies, be taken over from within by a vocal group of people who are SJW. You know, they are all about, well, no, your right to free speech does not trample a trans person's right to, and all the rhetoric is ridiculous. But here's where we are. So we're in a situation in which people are tired of saying, well, hold on to all those other rights right now because we got to get progress in the moment. And to those people, it doesn't look like progress. It just.
And you're right. But much like everything, it has its time. And we're seeing right now that these particular people have chosen their time. And I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with the Trumpers. Let me just say that for a fact. I appreciate them because I understand the nationalism attitude. I was a part of that movement at one point for Black people. I understand how it's important to have your own, celebrate your own, without denouncing and stepping on someone else's feet. I understand that. But here's where the problem lies. When you're talking about the FBI, and we're saying when the FBI is giving out reports, and media is trying its best not to report on it because of what could possibly happen about having armed marches on United States Capitol and armed marches on all 50 capital states. We're talking about Ohio having one on Sunday. We're talking about the inauguration. We're talking about the safety of the American people at this point. We cannot, I repeat, we cannot ruin all of what this country has built itself on and all the progresses that we have made to get to this point because these people, and I say these people, I'm used to being called these people, by the way, these people, right, have decided that they're going to be upset because their man lost. This is what this is about.
Their man lost. They've been censored. Their finances are about to be fucked with.
Yes.
Their finances are going to go after Trump people who even worked with him.
And
You're not talking about the people who rioted. Look what is happening with the senators right now. We could get into the impeachment stuff after the break, but we have a situation in which now these senators. Hold on.
To your president.
But look what's happening with the senators.
Your president is telling you to. Your president now is telling you to calm the fuck down. This is what your president is telling you. Listen to your president, people. Listen to your president.
Who's saying to calm the F down on the left?
Well, the left is not responsible for
what?
For rioting on the Capitol.
What are they responsible for?
At this point, we'll have that conversation when we come back. Now, let me get one thing straight, mister. Let me just get one thing straight, Christopher. And it's something that you have to understand. I'm not a liberal, and I'm not here to speak for liberals. I'm an independent. But I can tell you that liberals have fucked me just as much as they fucked everybody else. Yeah. Trust me. But what I'm talking about is where responsibility lies right now. And I'm telling you that based on what has happened in the last 14 days, last 3 months, last 2 months to get through the election, the re-election, the recounts, the double recounts, the recounts, all of this stuff, I'm telling you that we've done everything, government has done, I believe, everything it can be in order to move forward to the next regime, to the next administration. That's all we want to do at this point is get to the inauguration so that we could move forward. And I'm telling you, between Trump, Trumpers, Trumpists, Trumpologies, big tech, between all of these people,
Well,
It's making it hard for us to move forward.
Well, real
Do
quick.
you not want to move forward, ladies and gentlemen? Talk to me. Put it in the comments.
Depends where forward is.
Are you not exhausted with this bullshit?
Forward could be off a cliff, so be careful. So first of all, these people who are calling themselves liberals, if you're not for free speech, you're not very liberal. I'm more of a liberal than these people who say are liberals. Another thing is that we have to be very careful not to be led by our emotion, because what they're doing is they're revving people up based on their emotion. I was really disturbed this week at how many people were cheering on the fact that the stuff with Trump and Parler and all of this stuff, because you're cheering your own demise. You really are. I mean, if you can't win an argument, learn how to win an argument, or maybe make a good argument. But just to suppress the other side, you're just creating such a counterculture. Like, okay, let's put it like this, too. Biden this week came out with some pandering speech about what he's going to do in his presidency to repair businesses. Keep in mind, everyone's business got screwed by the coronavirus. He said he's going to focus on Black, Latino, Native American, Asian.
Sounds good to me.
And female businesses.
That sounds good to me.
Oh, that's great. Now, does that leave out maybe one group? Maybe the type of group who might rock a horn outfit and go... is there one group that maybe he excluded in that speech about businesses getting back to normal?
Well, hold on for a second. Are you implying that white businesses have not been at the helm of this country's success?
You're just punishing people for what happened in the past. This is what's happening.
It's not about the past. It's about moving forward in the future. And if you're going to level the playing field, if you're going to make it...
Who's going to do that? I'm not doing that.
No. You just said yourself that we've all been affected by the coronavirus.
So what he's going for is equality of outcome. And yeah, I'm just not sure that's...
Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, he has to slow down. He has to say that more clearly. I'm not going to let that slide, what he just said. What is he going after?
He's going an equality of an outcome.
He's going for the equality of an outcome. Isn't that what America is about? Equality?
No, it's about free market.
Okay.
It's two different things.
Hold on for a second.
The president's saying he's going to make a policy that's racial, that helps everyone's businesses except one particular group.
Because they've already gotten their help. Believe me when I tell you, as a person who's been in business, and as a person right now who's helping businesses, again, to get themselves back on after coronavirus, more of that to come later, I'm noticing that at least in the first part of this crisis, that it was majority white businesses that actually was able to participate in what the government had offered in regards to relief. It was blacks, Latinos, and I don't know, I can't really speak on the Asian part because I don't have a lot of information on that, but I can speak definitely to those people. Those people are the ones who suffered mostly during this time. Small businesses, but white businesses, they got the money.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who would disagree with you, but what I'm getting
I got the facts already. I know. You can go on to the SBA and see the businesses that got those loans in the first round.
How did they say white?
No. Yes, they did, because I have to have some type of demographics as well. It tells you what the business name is, where they are. You can look it up yourself. It tells you how much they received.
Right.
It gives you a state by state. True.
Yeah.
It gives you a state by state. It tells you what the business was. It tells you how much they got.
So you're saying Bob's Burgers got it, but not Juan's Taco Stop?
And it's because of the lack of information. Keep in mind, my friends,
it just sounds divisive.
Hold on. Whenever you have businesses, right? Whenever you are dealing directly with businesses, particularly in the loan setting, you need advisors. You need an accountant. You need lawyers. You need these things. So when you are out there and you're actually participating in the free market, when you don't have this kind of representation, when you can't afford this kind of representation, then typically it would be one thing on an application that would disqualify, because they're doing it based on some type of algorithm. They're saying, wait, and they get kicked out, and you can only apply once. So a lot of businesses, unfortunately, when they apply for these kind of things and they don't have the kind of leadership and guidance in the application process, it fails for them. But what I'm telling you is that white people have this. White people have these kinds of people in place. And unfortunately, because of whatever it may be, ignorance, whether it be lack of business knowledge, our businesses in the black community, Latino community, they suffer from being able to participate in these things. So when I tell you that white businesses, They do have these things in place. They know the rules. They know how the game is played because they've been playing it for generations and generations and generations. There are a lot of black businesses that would be first generation, second generation. But when you look at these white businesses, they go back hundreds of years, 2 generations, 3 generations of businesses, and they're not going to fail.
It's just, I guess what I'm getting at is that it's so easy for those in power to use the racial button to get people emotional and to do so. You know what? I got to say something real quick.
And
Hold on.
Particularly.
Yeah, because you know what? I'm going to change course in something that we weren't even have a show or even thought we have a show at. After 9/11, I was, like many people, I was in the fucking go crazy, kill them all crowd. I was fucking, the whole country was, let's do this. But look at the aftermath with the Patriot Act and all this stuff. It's a violation of our civil liberties. We were cheering for it. That's right. Now I see this week people getting worked for their emotions, and a bunch of racial arguments that got thrown in seemingly divisively. And I see situations in which we are now potentially cheering on the loss of more liberties, and I can no longer do that. And I feel bad I did it the last time.
And I understand, and that's why I say liberals. I'm speaking particularly to the liberals. Be careful. You cannot take the responsibility of an individual. You have to let individuals make choices. I've said it on this show before. I am not for the helmet law. I am not for the seatbelt law. Those are all liberal type governmental laws. I can make a decision on my own for my health. But you want to institute it because you want to be able to have a ticket book so that when the police stops me.
Safety first.
When the police stop me in my neighborhood and for a seatbelt, so they'll be able to do other things. But you don't think about it like that. But that's how I think about it. So liberals, particularly to the liberals, you cannot use someone's rights as a political or institute some kind of thing that they can make their own choices with. Period. Stop it.
Yeah. And if you just if you're saying that, the group all agrees, then are you really for the minority? Then you're just bullying. Like, for instance, what happened with Parler, you have a couple companies that are valued at $1 trillion. And they're not a baby. They have like a $500 million valuation, but you have the whole internet ganging up to say, well, for the health of the country. But really, what are you saying?
No, hold on, Chris. Hold on, because most people,
I'm going on a tangent.
Hold on. No, Chris. What I'm saying is that unfortunately, our listeners probably don't know what Parler is.
Parler is the.
Let's. And I'm not trying to be demeaning or anything based on your information. Everyone who's listening, I'm not putting it out there that I don't think you know. But Parler is go ahead.
It's an alternative to Twitter that in practice is right wing. However, they don't. Their mission statement, not that it's exactly lived up to, is to be free speech version of Twitter. If you're not violating the First Amendment, whatever you say is fine on there.
So basically,
they don't kick liberals off there.
So basically what happened is a lot of the Republicans moved over to this particular platform because they were not being heard or being censored on Twitter, right? So much like people do when they're not being supported on one, they create their own. And Parler was because they're now being censored, and Apple decided just this week that they were going to stop people from being able to download the app. How can this
and
be
Google
right?
did, and Amazon threw them off the servers, and any people in their company that were like lawyers and stuff were harassed and bullied. And the company's worth $500 million, it was. And then you have a bunch of other companies that essentially control the internet, and Amazon controls most of the cloud storage in the market space, and they basically band together to say, no, sorry, you don't have a terms of service that we agree with. It's not safe. Gotta go.
So now what do you do?
Well, now keep in mind, real quick, as much as they saying, it's because of all these things we're offended by, we understand the art of war.
Of course we do.
These are people who
I love the art of war.
These are people who were taking their market share. They were taking the people. The people were going there. They had like 1 million or 2 million downloads in the last week, and they did it in the middle of the night, essentially on a news week. They did it on Friday night. They started all that. And it was pretty much done by Sunday night.
And if it won't, I'm telling you, if it had happened to them, it could happen to you.
Yeah. Well, because check this out. So, I was following the Hong Kong protests. And what happened then in there is they were using these encrypted apps. And then those were getting messed with. Then those Hong Kong protesters went to Bluetooth to communicate. You're talking about using your phone to send radio signals then you delete. So you're talking about, at this point, you're talking about a resistance movement.
That's right. Now you're talking about basically that interprets to me as Morse code over the internet. That's like dot 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 dot. That's like a Morse code where they're using over the internet.
Now check this out. Yesterday, as this all this crazy
mind
stuff
you, my friends, we're in the United States, by the way. I just want to make sure you guys are.
Yeah.
Those of you all who may be listening in India, shout out to my people out in India, by the way. Thank you so much, by the way, for all of the subscriptions, the new subscriptions, and thank you guys for watching this show. Shout out to my people out in India, particularly Bangalore out there, Bangalore, India. Shout out to my man Farad. Shout out to all my people out there. Thank you guys for the love. But what the hell was I saying?
Okay, so in your shout outs, you lost track of. Oh, so basically, in Hong Kong, it devolved into people using sparser and sparser modes of communication, but still doing it because the energy was still there, and people don't like censorship. Now, look what happened while this impeachment yesterday was going on. I saw a thing on NBC. They were talking about now they're going to think about going after Telegram. That's not what they said, but they said, well, all the extremists. They said that word so many times, and they said they're all going to Telegram because it's encrypted. But here's what they didn't mention. We're talking about Kings, and we're talking about Art of War. Telegram is tied in with cryptocurrency. Then you see these places like Facebook trying to make their own. You're seeing the government start to crack down on crypto. That's why I never got into it, honestly. So on the surface, they're telling you, be emotional. All these extreme people are going to this next one, Telegram. We got to get tough on Telegram next. But they're not saying that there's a whole side thing they're really concerned about. And there's a lot of people right now being used for their emotions by people who are billionaires, close to trillionaires. And they don't realize that those people, just like last year with the pandemic, stand the most to gain from the suppression of smaller businesses and companies and places in the space. And we're talking about people cheering on the actions of monopolies at this point. That's really scary, and that's not liberal.
And it's not the American way. We're in the United States, people. We have to not forget that we set the precedents for how people respond in this country. We're sending a message, and we have a responsibility at being what we would consider on top. We have a responsibility, and what message are we sending right now? Now, do I agree?
Jerry Springer show.
Listen.
Tune into CNN.
But again, we talked about it already. We talk about what happens on the Jerry Springer show, but it's entertaining.
It was.
It's fun to fucking watch.
Yeah, it is. If I wasn't
and
American,
I miss it, by the way.
If I was an American, I would be having a great time watching this.
But we have to be very careful about how we are moving forward from this point forward. The United States, the American people, created a mandate in this last year's election, a mandate allowing and giving Democrats both the House and the Senate. Right now, the only thing that gives us any kind of balance would be the Supreme Court. That's the only thing now. So for all of you all out there who are independent, all of you all out there who are thinkers, who don't necessarily subscribe to a party, we have to be extremely, extremely careful. For those of you all who do subscribe to a party, which I don't have a problem with, whether you're Democrat or Republican, at the end of the day, you're American, and you have a right to have politicians, and we have that is how our government is created. But we have to be very careful. This is very remnants, like I said, of the 60s, very remnants of the 70s, very remnants of how government begins to step in and start creating different ways of getting rid of free speech, different ways of suppressing information and organizations that doesn't look and act like them.
And it keeps saying got to be real careful about what you're building that you don't realize you're building, because the next Trump is not going to be so undisciplined. He's not going to be excited that the McRib is back.
Fucking Trump.
I thought George was going to laugh at that one.
I tell you, man, we got to work on these jokes. We got to start writing some jokes, man. Shit. I mean, this. By the way, my friends, I want you to know that this show is unscripted. The segments are quite produced in the way that we understand what we're going to necessarily talk about. But but the script is, we go for it, and we're going to have to write him some more jokes. Yeah. Clearly.
Can I really quick just review the impeachment, because it's kind of
of
there's so much that happened this week.
I mean, it's been only 14 days.
Yeah.
And we had like 50 different topics, man, to talk about. So by all means, tell us what you think about the impeachment and what's going on with the impeachment.
What we saw yesterday was startling. It was almost a speed version of an impeachment, like speed chess. There's speed dating. Now we have speed impeachment.
Now be mindful, people. We saw speed last year too, right before the presidential election, when they decided to put in a Supreme Court justice. So let me just preface this. We saw speed there too.
Right.
So,
well, that's the startling thing, is that how fast these guys move when they want to.
That's right. The Republicans did it, and the Republicans did it right before the election. And now the Democrats, Chris, are doing it now with this impeachment.
Yeah, it's incredible how long they could drag out just arguing any of these packages or what. And then here it's just like, wow, this actually works. It took them 7 months
to get a stimulus package.
Now, keep in mind, when the country...
7 months to get a stimulus package for the American people. People can't pay their rent. Got to make decisions about food versus paying bills.
Now, keep in mind, to George's friends out there in India and others around the world, when this country started, we didn't have cars. This republic, there was no such thing as cars. You were getting around by horses. So when you met in Congress, you weren't there to hang out or make plans to talk about nothing, which has happened this week as well. You were there to handle some business and go home. It was a long journey. Yeah. Now what we have is people who drag things out forever, but sometimes they don't. And they seem to have been caught up in the emotion of just getting Trump the hell out of there real quick. And the reason seems to be that they don't want him to come back.
Talk about it. Teach us why. Teach us. Give us the information as to how that works.
You can, in an impeachment, you can put a provision in there, and if you convict, so the House impeached Trump, people think that means he's gone. Well, no, he's not. Hey, 2-time impeachment champion.
Hey, man, 3 times a charm, but we don't have time. We don't have time.
But yeah, the Senate has to convict him, so the Senate has to, confirm it all. In the heat of the moment, I think the Republicans thought, well, we'll move on. We'll get another Trump. I think once the dust settles, they're going to realize whoever votes to take him out is going to get primaried. They'll probably be, the voting base will probably take them out sooner. But the reason they're doing it is because Washington, D.C. doesn't like the spotlight on themselves. They want to hang out and take forever to do things they won't want to do and take real quick to do the things they do want to do. And Trump is just, because he just globs up so much attention, he puts the light on D.C. And now you're seeing how the sausage is made.
You don't like what's in the sausage, but you like how it tastes.
And they don't want you to see that.
They don't.
So
want you to see it.
I'm not saying Trump doesn't deserve it or not a complete asshole.
Of course he is.
But
I concur.
But what's happening here is that they just don't want the attention anymore. And they think if they ban him, that all this will go away. Because guess what? When there was people looting businesses, they didn't mind. Because it wasn't their business. But politics is their business. So people looted them the other week, rioted on them. Now they're concerned. Google kept an eye on how many security guards were there and how many broke through. Google's doing the math. Am I going to be able to have 1,500 guards outside every door of Google headquarters? That mob might go there next. So they want to quickly and desperately push this under the rug. And they don't even fully understand it because they have so often shied away from it, especially the Republicans with their own base, that they don't fully understand how big the situation is and how volatile it is.
Well, they know now.
And they don't want any more of whatever happened the other week.
You think these people are going to put a noose in front of every big tech? How would they feel if they saw that? Because these particular Republicans will do it. And they will do it because they want to do it. And they will just take the repercussions because they're going to say it's for state. It's for patriotism. I'm a patriot is what they say. So I'm willing to live and die for what I believe because now at this time, we need to move. This is it. They believe that.
This isn't Live Strong bracelets. This isn't hashtag Me Too. This is IRL. What's going on?
Real life shit. And you all have to understand the winners. Now, I know it's nice to gloat. Don't get me wrong. I believe that a championship team should have a parade. I do believe that. I believe that a championship team should hold their trophy high. But it's something about being a good winner and not losing face at the fact that someday you'll be on the other side. So you got to have a little tact.
Yeah.
Now that's a small word, but with a big meaning. Tact. You have to have a little tact because you never know when the tables will turn on you.
Yeah, and I think it's an important lesson for everyone to think about what George just said because, hey, look, we were talking about the movie Joker last week, and he said in the movie, no one thinks about what it feels like to be the other guy. So it would be important to, if you're really serious about unity on any side of this, it would be really important right now to start thinking about stuff like that and to stop going for wins that don't really help you, but help some rich guy that happens to share some of your politics.
That's right. So if you're sitting in the neighborhood right now, I know no one's going to do this, but maybe if I start lighting a match, I say go to your neighbors and talk to them.
No, don't do that in Venice. We had enough problems with that.
That's true. Maybe it's too soon. Maybe it's too soon to be lighting matches here in Venice.
Yeah, still coughing.
You're probably right. Fuck. Okay, maybe that's not a good analogy. Okay, so if you are living in a neighborhood, which most of us are, I would suggest that you find your Republican friend and give them a hug. Let them know that we all are Americans. You'd be surprised. I'm not being funny with what I'm saying. I'm saying it's time now to start building and communicating with the other side. We cannot just continue to throw darts at each other. Because at some point, there is no bullseye. We all will lose. Yeah. We all will fucking lose. So it's very important that we start at this point beginning to depoliticize our movement in this country.
Yeah.
We have what we have now. For the next 2 years, we have the Democrats. And guaranteed they're going to raise taxes, which I hate. They're going to raise taxes. Somebody has to pay for all this stimulus money.
And for all the repairs to the Capitol building.
You know, I mean, if you are a liberal, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right. And I'll also like to say shout out to liberals who live in red areas because we live in a sickeningly blue area.
Woo!
I mean, there's someone who's flying the Che Guevara. You got Marxist flags flying up over here. So I have respect for people who are like anti-abortion in California. But if you go to Kansas, it's a different world. So shout out to those people who are the minority in their little community, whatever their community might be.
Reach out to your people. Reach out to the other side. Make amends. Find a way to bridge the gap. One person at a time.
Yeah.
Do not and stop walking next to your neighbors, acting as if because they have different political views in this human experience that we're all not humans. We are all first humans. And we have to take care of each other through these times. It's not going to get any easier, and this shit is not going away. It's not going away, people. Stop talking about 2021 as if it's some magical number. We are just getting started. And this podcast is going to show you every week how it's not going away until we work together.
And also remember, if you ban free assembly, rich people still go wherever they want. You ban free speech, rich people still do whatever they want. I'm talking about super wealthy, like these guys who run these big tech platforms. You ban guns, they still have security guards. So do the politicians. So just be very careful about how angry you are right now and understand that any removal of someone else's civil liberties also removes your own. They might just not be the ones you care about at the moment, but you might care about them later. That's my soapbox.
Get off your soapbox, man.
Yeah.
We're done, people. We've given you all that we can this week.
Can I give a quick shout out?
Of course, man. But before we get a shout out, before we do the shout outs, I want to just say, cheers, man. It's always have a good time talking to you, brother.
Yep. Through the COVID shield.
Yeah, let's do these shout outs.
Okay, it's not someone I know personally, but given the fact that Venice just caught up in flames due to the homeless encampment, you should go check out. There's a guy in Venice called German in Venice. He's like a big, gregarious, fun-loving type of German guy, but he loves Venice, and he's been here for years. He's from Germany. And if you want to see the nitty-gritty of what's going on, and, you know, it's easy to walk past these tents or to want to walk past these tents, but he actually goes in there and talks to the people. And, you know, he doesn't have all the answers, but at least he's engaging with people. You get to see exactly how they're living. You get to see what's on their mind. It's pretty fascinating. So it's a YouTube channel, German in Venice.
All right. Shout out to German in Venice. Shout out to, like, again, I want to give another shout out to my good friends out in India for boosting our YouTube channel and giving us these numbers. I really appreciate it immensely. You know, as we move forward in this week, there's still going to be a lot of things moving. As we get closer to inauguration, I want everyone to be safe. Remember, we're still in a pandemic. Remember, we're still, you know, we still have to be healthy. For those of you all who are taking the vaccine, and for those of you all who have been involved in the first responders, and we send our love to you guys. But I want you to make sure that you stay healthy and make sure that you come back. Now, if you're listening to us for the first time, make sure you subscribe to our channel. If you're looking on Facebook, you know, become a friend, follow us. If you're looking on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button below, okay? And come on back to see us next week. This is episode 25. And in episode 25, we're going to end this. But as always, I like to end this by saying these words. Famous words now from my dad, Clarence Patterson. He would say this in this times, and it's greatly needed. He would say, don't ever let the times change the lines in your smile. Peace, guys.
Peace.